Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking at Palantir Technologies, a company that's been making some serious waves in the world of AI. Now, when you hear AI, you probably think of things like ChatGPT, right? But Palantir is doing something different, something a lot more complex, and we're going to break it all down for you today. I'm really curious to hear what our expert has to say. What exactly makes Palantir so different in the AI world?
Yeah, the big thing with Palantir is that they aren't focused on that everyday AI we see like chatbots. They're more about providing solutions for the really huge organizations, like governments and corporations.
Okay, so they're not building the next Siri or Alexa. Then what kind of problems are they actually solving for these big organizations? The article mentions some pretty interesting examples.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like imagine the US military needing to make these super fast decisions during a mission. Palantir's platform is actually helping them analyze real-time data to give them an edge. Or think about the COVID-19 pandemic. Palantir was so important in helping the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services manage and predict outbreaks. And it's not just government work. They're also helping corporations detect fraud, streamline operations, and use their resources better.
So it's almost like giving these organizations a superpower, being able to make sense of all this data and make better decisions.
Yeah, you can definitely say that. They're basically a really sophisticated decision-making engine that goes way beyond just simple chatbots.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, everybody's talking about AI these days, but just how big is this market actually going to get? Is this all hype, or is there something really here?
That's a great question. Right now, the adoption rate of AI tools in businesses is still pretty low, surprisingly. The Motley Fool says that less than 7% of U.S. businesses are using them right now.
Wow, less than 7%. That does seem kind of low considering all the buzz around AI. Why do you think that is?
It all comes down to uncertainty. A lot of business leaders are still trying to figure out how to actually make money from AI. Even the Boston Consulting Group found that only about 25% of companies see clear benefits from their AI investments.
So tons of potential, but still some hesitation in the market. But if I'm reading this article right, it also mentions some pretty big growth projections too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Precedence Research is predicting that the decision intelligence software market, which is where Palantir is, will grow by over 15% every year through 2034. And IDC says that global spending on AI will double to a massive $630 billion each year by 2028.
Those are some huge numbers. So how does Palantir fit into this quickly growing market? Are they in a good spot to capitalize on this?
Yeah. Well, they're definitely on track for some major growth. They're projecting revenue growth of over 30% just this year. And the Motley Fool thinks that the adoption rate for these advanced AI tools in U.S. companies could jump almost 40% in the next 6 months. So if that happens, Palantir is going to be in a prime spot to ride the wave.
Okay, so we've got a company with some really powerful tech in a market that seems like it's about to explode. It sounds like a pretty compelling story, but, and this is the big question for anybody interested in investing, is Palantir a good investment? Especially for someone in Gen Z who's just getting started and thinking about their long-term financial goals.
Well, that's where things get a little more tricky. There's definitely potential there, but also some risk to think about. Right now, Palantir's stock is trading at over 140 times this year's projected earnings. For those of you who aren't super familiar with stock valuations, that basically means that investors are paying a really high price for every dollar of profit the company's expected to make. Plus, their stock has been up and down recently, dropping 34% from its highest point earlier this year. Volatility just means that the stock price can change really fast, which can make some investors a little nervous.
Okay, so it's not exactly a set it and forget it type of investment. But wait, why would Palantir be appealing to Gen Z investors then?
It really comes down to time. Younger investors can handle those short-term changes and ride out the ups and downs. They have more time to be patient and focus on those long-term gains.
It's like that saying, time in the market beats timing the market, right? You're saying they have more time to recover if things dip.
Exactly. Think about companies like Amazon back in the late 90s, or even Tesla more recently. They were seen as expensive for years. But the people who believed in those companies and held on to their stock saw huge rewards.
So we're talking about a potential high-risk, high-reward situation, something that might be better for investors who can be patient and who are looking long-term.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about understanding the potential of a company that's shaping the future of AI in a whole new way.
Okay, so we've talked about how Palantir isn't your average tech company. They're not selling gadgets or software subscriptions. So then how does their business model actually work? How are they making money?
It's a pretty interesting model, actually. Think of it like this. Instead of just selling a product, Palantir is selling like a solution, a platform. They're kind of like the architects of a custom-built operating system for these big organizations so they can manage and analyze all of their data.
Okay, so they're not selling widgets. They're selling the ability to actually make sense of all this information. That makes sense. But how does that translate into revenue? What are they actually charging for?
Well, they usually go for these long-term contracts with their clients. And the revenue structure can get kind of complicated. It usually includes things like upfront fees, recurring subscription costs, and even performance-based bonuses based on the results they achieve. It's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach, and that's part of what makes it so hard for analysts to figure out what they're actually worth.
So it's a pretty complex setup. No wonder Wall Street's having a hard time figuring out what this company's really worth. But there's something that I found interesting in the article. It says that Palantir is really selective about who they work with. Is that true?
Yeah, you're right. They're not just working with anybody who can pay them. They're super careful about the projects they pick. They focus on missions and partnerships that they actually believe in. And this approach has kind of contributed to their controversial company culture.
Controversial. Okay, now I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that. What's all the controversy about?
Well, for one thing, they're known for being super secretive, which has made some people think they have this kind of shadowy image. And their CEO is a pretty interesting character in the tech world. He's definitely not afraid of making bold decisions and thinking outside the box.
So they're not afraid to shake things up and do things their own way. So it's not just about the numbers, it's also about their values, their vision, and how they choose to operate. It seems like investing in Palantir is about more than just AI. It's also about buying into their particular brand of AI and how they actually use it.
Yeah, exactly. You're investing in their technology, their approach, and their philosophy.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So for someone trying to wrap their head around all of this, what are the key takeaways about Palantir's business model?
I'd say there are three main points to remember. First, they're not selling a product, they're selling a solution. Their platform uses AI to solve complicated problems, but it's tailored to each client's specific needs. Second, their revenue model is kind of all over the place. It has long-term contracts, different fee structures, and those performance-based bonuses. And finally, their selectivity and their unique, sometimes controversial approach to business are as much a part of their identity as their technology is.
Okay, I'm getting it. It's not just AI, it's how Palantir is using AI to face these big challenges in a way that's totally their own. But we've talked about the risks, the high valuation, the volatility. What about the potential rewards? What are the experts saying about Palantir's long-term prospects?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. There are a lot of different opinions out there. Some analysts think Palantir is going to be the next big tech giant, and others are a lot more cautious. It's almost like a Wall Street debate club.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are the arguments on both sides? Give me the inside scoop.
Well, let's start with the optimists, the ones who see Palantir as this future tech giant. They point to the massive potential of the whole AI market. Palantir's strong presence in important areas like government and defense, and their history of getting big contracts. They think Palantir is already a proven player, and that they're in a perfect spot for huge growth as AI becomes more popular. Some even compare them to early Microsoft or Google, companies that really dominated their fields and made a ton of money for their investors.
Wow, those are some pretty big comparisons. But I know there has to be another side to this. What are the skeptics, the bears, as they're called, saying? What are their concerns about investing in Palantir?
The skeptics have some good points, too. Their main concerns are Palantir's high valuation, which we've already talked about, how competitive the AI market is, and possible ethical concerns about how their tech is being used.
Okay, so let's break that down. We've talked about the high valuation, but what about the competition? Aren't other big tech companies also putting a lot of money into AI? How does Palantir measure up?
Oh, for sure. Think about companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. They all have their own AI projects, and they have the money to make them happen. The worry is that even though Palantir has an early lead, these huge companies could push them out or just be smarter. It's kind of a David versus Goliath situation.
That's a good point. And what about the ethical concerns? We haven't really gotten into that yet. Is there something specific about Palantir's tech that's raising red flags?
It's not really about specific red flags. It's more about the bigger picture of AI, especially with a company like Palantir that's working in sensitive areas like defense and intelligence. Their technology brings up questions about privacy surveillance and if it could be misused.
Right, so it's not just about the tech itself, it's about how it's used and the impact it has on society. It sounds like a lot of responsibility comes with that kind of power.
Exactly. These are tough issues with no easy answers. But for people who want to invest, it's really important to be aware of these concerns and to think about the risks, both financial and ethical, of investing in a company like Palantir.
Okay, so we've heard from the bulls and the bears, and they both have some interesting arguments. So where does that leave us, the listeners who are trying to figure all of this out and decide if Palantir is a good investment?
That's the big question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no easy answer. Investing in a company like Palantir means thinking carefully about both the good and the bad. It's about understanding their technology, how competitive the AI market is, and most importantly, your own goals and how much risk you're comfortable with. There's no right answer for everybody.
So no crystal ball predictions, but a lot to think about and weigh carefully.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about these deep dives. We're not here to tell you what to do with your money. We want to give you the knowledge you need so you can make your own informed decisions. It's all about helping you become a smarter investor.
Okay, I like that. So we've talked about a lot. Palantir's different approach to AI, how their business model works, the potential of the AI market, and what the experts are saying, both good and bad. But we're not done yet. There's one more important piece to talk about. What's next on our list for this deep dive?
Let's change gears a little and talk about what all of this means for you, the listener, and for the future we're all moving towards. We've been talking about Palantir, but let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture of how AI is affecting society as a whole.
Sounds good. Let's look at the big picture of AI and what it means for all of us. Buckle up, everyone. We're going beyond Palantir and into the future. Okay, so we're back and ready to explore this big picture of AI. It's easy to get caught up in the hype of a specific company like Palantir. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on what all this means for the average person? Like, are we all going to have AI robots doing our dishes soon, or is that still just sci-fi?
Well, AI robots doing chores might be a little while away. But honestly, AI is already a part of our lives in ways we might not even notice.
Really? I mean, I use navigation apps and streaming services, but I don't really think of those as like AI.
Oh, think about it. Those personalized recommendations you get on streaming services, the routes your navigation app gives you, even the spam filters keeping your inbox clean, it's all AI working behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. It's not always those flashy, futuristic robots we see in movies. AI is already doing a lot of the work in our digital lives.
Exactly. And as AI keeps getting better, it's going to change how we work, how we live, and even how we interact with the world around us. It's kind of like the internet back in the early 90s. People knew it was a big deal, but no one knew just how much it would change things.
That's a really good comparison. So are you saying we're at the start of a similar kind of AI revolution?
Yeah.
And companies like Palantir are leading the way?
I think that's a good way to look at it.
Hmm.
And whether or not you choose to invest in Palantir, I think it's valuable to understand their role in all of this. It kind of gives you a glimpse into the future and how AI might impact the world.
So even if we don't all become Palantir investors, there's still something to learn from understanding what they're doing and what it means for the future of AI.
Yeah, definitely. It's about being informed about understanding what's shaping our world. And AI is a huge part of that.
Okay, you've definitely given us a lot to think about. I'm feeling a mix of excitement and honestly a bit of nervousness about this whole AI future. Any final thoughts for our listeners? Something to really make them think about the bigger picture of it all?
Hmm. How about this? We've talked a lot about how AI will change businesses and industries. But what about how it will change our individual lives? As AI gets more and more advanced, it brings up some big questions about jobs, education, even our own identities in a world where machines can do more and more things. It's not just about the technology. It's about how we adapt as people and as a society to this crazy changing world.
Whoa, okay, that's a deep one. Definitely something for our listeners to ponder. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into Palantir and the world of AI, which is both super interesting and a little bit scary.
It was great to be here. And remember, this is just the start of the conversation. AI is always evolving, so stay curious, keep learning, and be ready for a future full of surprises.
Well said. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep into the topics that matter.